Should be able to.
Oh yeah. I don't want to go dark.
Yeah,
I don't
let's
know
see.
about this battery.
Yep. Pour some spray in here.
feedback that's happening?
No. But it's not.
Oh, awesome.
It's not. Yeah. That's-
versus what's on the screen.
Ready?
Where it's coming from.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good.
Oh, wait a
That's
second.
a
I
lot.
know. Yelena's just sharing in Teams. You guys just aren't. Someone else is sharing. Teams is actually turned off right now. Yeah. And we'll start it back up when we get going.
I just want to make sure you're. Well, is that the right way you see on the screen?
Okay.
Yes.
Whatever you have.
Yeah, yep, yep.
Yes, I think we're about to get going.
Oh, you know
so, yeah. By the way, so
They're filtering.
yeah, that was throwing me.
Okay, cool.
So you can sit if you want to. And pull that mic over if it helps.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know if that was, yeah, I think I'm going to do that. Let me know when you're ready, Emily.
Yep, and Joel's gonna. They just need to turn on their share.
All right, as everybody has been wanting to see and get right into this, we will have Joel do a presentation of TWMS. As you all should know, TWMS is our authoritative cyber workforce tracking module. It's our authoritative place where we track all of our cyber workforce readiness. So as DoD just had us do a data call on the cybersecurity element and the foundational qualifications, we use TWMS to be able to report that. All of the workforce PMs were to go into TWMS and put all of that qualification data in there. I want to say that, as Alfredo mentioned, Navy and Marine Corps are leading the way when it comes to readiness tracking. We are doing it. TWMS right now can report on 8140. No other service has that. We're doing great. So I want to deep dive it today, show you guys what the capabilities are. We've built some new features into it. And any questions you have, anything you want to go through, this is a very interactive brief where Joel can go into whatever you'd like. If there's questions you have about being able to put it in there, we'll be able to do that today. So I will turn it right over to you, Joel.
Thank you, Emily. Can everybody hear me? Thank you. My name is Joel Alegre, and on behalf of my command, Commander Naval Installations Command, under direction of CIO Lori Fleischman, I'd like to thank the OPNAV team for honoring us with a brief presentation of the current capabilities of TWMS. I've heard it all, so we'll just get that out of the way. Get your pitchforks and torches out, and we can have at it there. I've been on staff since 2003. Just a little bit about me, but I've helped develop TWMS since '99. So hopefully I'm not showing my age too much, but that I've been with this program and quite intimate. I was first asked by NAVI-4, which was the initial execution arm for the cyber workforce in 2008, and we're the legacy. We have a good team now. We had some growing pains, and as you can see, we've evolved from the 2-digit specialty area code, which are still being used today in the module in regards to contract support. I don't know if the DFARS clause has accommodated us to move over to the 8140. Not as yet, so we're standing by. So with that said, with the permission of Josh, I am impersonating his account and logged in today in TWMS. And as you can see on the home screen, this is his Enterprise CWF login, and he sees the Dawn in its entirety. And this is just one page of 1,794 with 30 employees displayed, but you can see the running totals today for the Dawn, 71,000 in the workforce. There's been we see some 64 NAF, and don't know how they came in, but I checked it earlier this morning, and it's Nick Tamspak adding those people into the old module. So we'll probably want to have to talk with them, Emily, later on. So, but no harm, no foul. Let me go through one of the employees here. I'll just pick anyone in random. I'll pick one military and one civilian. So the premise of the module is based upon the work role code within their encumbered billet and or their base occupational series, designators, and ratings. And so with this individual here, we've seen, here are the areas, and this interface was approved and derived based on working groups that were years in makings with all BSOs in representation. And this is what we came up with. And as you can see, any of the read-only fields are coming from the program of record data, such as TWMS for the billets, TSMS for the Marine Corps billets, and DCPDS, as you can see. I'll pull up a civilian later on. But as you can see, we have these areas that the PMs administer to. Some of these were agreed upon, that checkboxes, CPDs, those would be locally administered and tracked at the command level. We used to do it in the old module some different way. It proved to be cumbersome and just time consuming. So the working group said, we'll take that work. And so with that said, the designation letter, this is used in two ways. For the PMs, the support center at CNIC inputs the date there upon receiving the request for an administrative TWMS account and their designation letters signed by their CEO stating that they are the designated PM in oversight of their commands for the workforce. They input that, and that gets populated here, and they are given the appropriate privileges to administer to the workforce based on their vetted command and UX structures. As you can see, we've broken it down to several tabs. This used to be one long page, and it was cumbersome to scroll down, and the information got longer and longer, so we decided, hey, can we make this more efficient and section it off? So we did. And here we have the foundational where it states anything that's been credentialed based on the employee's resume. Programs of records coming from NSIPs would be ingested and be evaluated on a nightly basis. Residential qualifications, documentations that are applicable to the workforce, and I'll show you that area a little bit later. The scorecard that evaluates in real time. And as you can see, this person is 0. Well, let's take a look as to why. Sounds like no one's administered to this person. Okay. An LOD, a new function that we have provided for the team to utilize, and the ease of administration. And I'll show you that in a little bit later. This was a wanting for such a long time that who made the changes at what time, because we've caught individuals with the privilege that would flip back and forth. I'm not going to incriminate anybody, but to suit their needs, and we now track that as a tracking mechanism. So part of their administration that we provided to the OpNav team within the tools and functions area is the CWF admin administration module. And in this, they can drill down to the work role codes. Let's, for instance, pick a 722, advancements. And these are the areas that would credential them and give them qualifying points for their scorecard. Right now, the education and training are being loaded as we speak. That should be at week's end, and that extract is coming from the Navy Cool Solid extract, and that will be provided on a quarterly basis and will be automated, and that would be less administration on the OpNav team. NECs that are credentialed for this work roll code, any PQSs, and OSs that we could align to that.
Hey, Joel.
Yes, sir.
So just to clarify the admin module as well, as Joel just said, there's automation that has started to take place, which comes from our Navy Cool Solid team. That extract is based off of the 8140 qualification matrices. So they are updating that every time the DoD team puts out an updated qualification matrix. They are ingesting those into those extracts. That's flowing over into TWMS and getting updated and vetted against the module and the scorecard.
Yes. Thanks, Josh. Going back to the module, the PM now has the ability to initiate a new letter of designation. The PM can go in here and modify specific instructions that the command wishes to employ. It grabs all the work roll codes on their TIFMs and TSMS billets. And if the PM has direct authority, signing authority from the CO and commanding officer, they can institute this and route it directly to the employee for signing. What happens is that the PM will initiate here. The LOD will be created with his signing of a digital signature. An email will be sent out automatically to the employee stating to where to go in his self-service record for signing of the employee, and it will be displayed here once the employee has signed it. So that just came about this last quarter, and I hope they're pretty happy with it. There's a lot of use in it. Some of the things that we still accommodate is the documents and agreements. Some of our PMs do not have direct authority, so they have to obtain the PDF copies, and they are allowed to load those here. And it goes within the agreement section, since it's a agreements of two parties. We put an expiration date just so that it gives a tickler report at a interval of, well, we put it at 5 years. Now we know that change of commands, we know when they are projected losses and gains. We inactivate any automated LODs, and we zero out those points regarding that. Of course, they can locally retain it, or they can upload the document, which will provide them a capability of uploading it from their local PC. Certifications, we've actually streamlined some of these certification entries. If in regard the PM or a training coordinator adds a certification that's scoped, by checking this box, they are now presented with a listing of the credentialed certifications based on their work roll code and expertise level. Outside of that, they are still allowed to search out other certifications that are outside the scope of the workforce and that are needed to be tracked. A lot of this is in our documentation and training page here, and it is a downloadable PowerPoint presentation. And some of the reports that we have and are continuing to develop based on the needs of OpNav N2 and 6. We have the personnel readiness roster. We have the primary work role codes. We have certifications expiring in 90 days. And a lot of you PMs know this. We just deployed out a immediate need for the DoD Dawn cyber workforce readiness for a certain segregation of, or series of work role codes that they needed for reporting. And we have an invalid primary work role code billet report. So there are instances where commands are still putting Delta Victor codes with a 000, whether or not they're exempted or not. They're displayed as 000 and 000 with and or a billet that has no expertise level will be showed unknown, and the scorecard will be 0 until that's rectified and coordinated with manpower to get a BCR request in for Navy. That's a billet change request in to right size that billet. So with that said, that's TWMS in a nutshell. I mean, we tried to make it as intuitive. I know that we went through growing pains, and I'm sure you have out there some wants and wishes, and I open the floor out for questions. Yes, sir.
My name is Juan Pendergrass, NIWIC Pacific, the CWF PM out there. I have a question in regards to the LOD. So there are certain entities at the command that say that DCPDS eventually will override TWMS when the information is uploaded to DCPDS. Because we're noticing that when we go into a particular profile for a civilian, let's say, in the particular module for the work role, it says DCPDS and then TWMS. And there seems to be some inconsistency there. So if those entities are saying that DCPDS work roles are the actual work roles, and then the LOD is actually going off of TWMS, does there not seem to be a disconnect?
So in a nutshell, we used to have a feedback loop.
Okay.
So everything is premised upon the encumbered billet. That's the base truth. Whether or not the PM or the manpower HR component of that corrects it in DCPDS, you'll have that mismatch shown in the base info.
Okay, so please correct it if I'm misinterpreting this.
Sure.
Are you saying that TWMS is the actual primary source of data for TWMS?
It is the base truth of where the work role code is derived.
Okay, because there seems to be some confusion, and we're going to make that correction.
Okay.
Because we've come to the understanding, or there's been rather ambiguous conversations whether which one is the actual.
So, yeah.
But no, there's. What's that?
So this is the point of the reconciliation effort, right?
Right.
So it's evident in my profile actually. So I'm a 751 or 752 from TWMS, and in DCPDS says I'm a 751.
Okay.
Right? That needs to be reconciled. So if there's a difference in the work role code, you need to validate, the supervisor needs to validate the billet. What does the PD state? Right? What actual work role code is this guy? Go back and reconcile with your manpower and HR folks to say, I need a billet change request in DCPDS to match what's in TWMS.
Okay, so TWMS is the source, the
TWMS.
oracle.
That's right.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. So as you can see on the screen, I didn't get the gentleman's name. Juan. Yes, yes. Juan, as you can see that the TWMS work role code is displayed here.
Right.
And the DCPS work role code is displayed there.
Right.
And so for base truth and understanding, we base everything upon the resume on the TWMS work role code, the CAF code.
Okay. Thank you. That's provided a lot of clarity, because certain people have it the other way around. So we're going to have a conversation.
Yeah, no worries. Yes, sir. Your question?
Commander Witz, Air Forces Pacific. One of the many hats I wear is CWF PM there. I have a lot of LIMDU sailors who are unassigned a bin. How do I get them in the CWF properly if they're supposed to be there?
Okay, so in that regard, LIMDU is a special case.
Right.
So we don't get any NSIPS data regarding their encumbering billet. And that's the challenge. Now, you have to, at that point, you have to coordinate with your manpower component and go through a TWMS billet assignment. And they'll pick up the correct billet based on what is authorized today and align it to the employee.
But there's no bins available to put them in. Right, they're just
Are
pure
you-
LIMDU coming from another, like, I'm a shore command, I take sailors that are supposed to be afloat, that are LIMDU coming in, no bins available, they just get stuck with me. How do I get them in CWF role?
So are
track
they
'em.
there, it depends on their tour duty and.
Could be as
LIMDU.
short as 6 months, could be as long as 3 years.
So is your expectation to have them execute IT functions?
If they're ITs, I'm gonna use them.
Emily, Josh, any thoughts on that? I mean,
I
you
mean,
still
I got a
can,
warrant officer right now who's LIMDU with us, and she's sitting around doing nothing, and I'm trying to use her for IT stuff. She's an
Right.
ISSM in her previous life, but since she's LIMDU, I can't enroll her in the CWF.
well, I'm not gonna condone this, sir, but
Okay.
you can encumber
There's
triple
no-
stuff,
there's no-
double stuff,
I have no
billets.
billet,
You don't have any IT billets, is that what you're
well, I
saying?
have no billets for her to go into. I have no bins to stuff her in, that match her where she's at, right? I mean, I could try to put her in a CWO2 billet, but
Yeah,
I don't know if I can do that.
unfortunately, MNRA has now directed the use of the temporary bins, the TSP bins, to be abolished by the end of next month.
Okay.
So that's coming down the pipe. That could have been your avenue to state that
right.
in that
I mean, I can do
regard.
it manually, of course, and, get a letter designation manually, but I was wondering, for an automation purposes, for reporting purposes, how do we track the unassigned LIMDU sailors that are out there? Because I'm not alone. I know there's other commands that have them,
Right.
right? So this is where my head's at. Right? How do we solve this
Yeah,
problem?
unfortunately, based on that, with commands that have specified funding, when LIMDU personnel, you don't have that execution arm and funding stretch
Right.
to accommodate. So that's a conundrum. I don't know how to solve
And
that.
what's even odder is I have some LIMDU sailors who are not ITs that somehow have cyber coding, and I'm trying to get them out of the CWF, right? So I don't even know how that works. I'm relatively new, but somehow that's happening. So I don't know how to get somebody I want in and get somebody out I don't want, right? That's the place
Right,
I'm
if
at.
you have a local TWMS manpower component that's administering to the
Right, and
workforce.
I've submitted a PCR to try to get them out,
Right,
right? But I don't, no confidence it's gonna work yet.
right,
So I
right,
just
yeah.
want to know if there's any sort of shortcuts to help out with that. If there's any long-term plan to accommodate unassigned sailors? Because they're out there. I mean, I can see all the carriers, and I see some out there too. How do we solve that problem? To report on them, right? Big data analytics, how do we report these people? Because there's it's gap in a seam, in my opinion, and they're out there, and we're not tracking them.
Right, and truth be told, the LIMDUs are just another population that
Right.
has been overlooked.
Right,
You have the reserve components
right.
now.
I'm not even gonna go there
Yeah,
yet.
yeah, well, okay, sorry.
I got that problem too,
So
right?
we'll take that.
Right.
We'll take that for action.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've written that down. We'll take
Okay,
for action and
thanks.
get back with you. Yep.
I have more questions, but I'll go first.
Hi, morning.
Morning.
I'm Tony Davila from NAVSUP. Had a couple questions in regards to contractors. So, like, when we get contractors, what's the normal process as far as, like, onboarding when they come in? And then, like, you have them in TWMS in order to account for them. How do they get onboarded? Because that's always a question that we get asked a lot. And then the other scenario, what if a contractor is working on 2 different contracts, and 2 different commands? What command do they get assigned to and stuff, even though they're working on 2 separate contracts? Just, for education and stuff.
Okay, so for the first part of your question, it's the fact that your contractors are, so here's the thing. We have a 2-hour feed coming in from Deers. That is our only way of creating active contractor personnel. Let me go into my system administrator here. And so what your manpower has to do at this point, a lot of these contractors are allocated in a KTR UIC. So for your sake, it would be KTR 22 with the last 2 digits of your BSO.
Okay.
So you'll see a listing of KTR 22 personnel that has not been allocated and touched and recognized by manpower. The manpower now has to allocate them into the correct UIC and org code to get them into visibility. And at that point, you can go ahead and assign billets that are cyber.
Okay, and so the manpower would be kind of like the starting point and stuff in order to bring them in, and then kind of title them as far as like what they're doing, whether or not if they're doing cloud or system admin or anything else like that, they'll do that as well?
Yes,
Okay.
so within the position info page, they can put their official organizational title at that point.
Okay,
Yep.
okay, great.
And so the second part of it, I'm sorry, could you restate that?
So, like, we've had contractors that have been assigned to different commands. So, one might be working on this contract, which might be outside our ESH2, or we might have them working, like, say, in headquarters, and then they're working with one of our ESH3s as well, too. How's the default as far as, like, what they get assigned to? Would they, how would that work?
Okay, so within TWMS, you have the option of, let me just go into this person's record here. And again, this is a coordination with manpower. So at the position information page, you have the official UIC is always the UIC that requested the person to be resourced into. So they're let's just for simplicity's sake say who requested that CAC to be issued from.
Okay.
Now, you're saying that that contractor is now farmed out to execute outside work within the BSO.
Yeah.
You would change the assign UIC here to your liking and reposition them. So now officially you have them to the headquarters, but assigning you have it to S3, S4, whatever your needs are, and now you have the correct allocation. Just keep in mind that when you go back to the home listing, you search on assign and you can see who's executing the work at the local physical location.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we've encountered this a lot. Someone's assigned a NAVC, and then they're also working in contract with us. So.
Yeah. So it would be NAVC owning, but they would be farmed out and assigned to your local. Yes.
Okay.
And
And then as far as like for tracking and management purposes and stuff, then the assigned UIC, for workforce and everything else like that, that would go down that route, or would it be from the?
Work executed physically would be at the assigned side.
Assigned.
Official, they still have to track whether or not they meet the resume as far as training and all that credentialing factors are concerned. So
Okay.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
That helps. Thank you.
Yep.
Hi.
Oh.
Keith Critchlow, NCTE program. I noticed that most of our workforce is contractor-based, high turnover, and assigning people, we are still using the old CWF when we go in and type them in, but I'm wondering, is all this work going to flow into when we finally get the new DFARS? Is that going to be pulled over, or are we kind of just wasting our time entering this data in the old database?
They're under 8140, there won't be a one-to-one thing. So if you're putting it IAT level 2, it's not going to be able to flow into anything like a work well code and proficiency level. So there really wouldn't be any kind of crosswalk that we'd be able to do. But it will flow, they will flow into the new module that they'll need to be coded as cyber, but there won't be the data entered there, what their work well code is or their proficiency level.
But that should fall when they eventually get processed over by their bin number, the bin assigned?
Yeah, if there's some kind of coding there, I believe we will have them automatically part of the cyber workforce, but the information may be missing on them.
Thank you, Anna.
So undeclared.
The other question I have is that we are seeing our contractors come back, and we're trying to stay ahead of it at direction to give them codes and proficiency levels. and then we see that they meet their qualifications. But the issue itself is that their HR, their manpower, even though we've provided these documents, isn't always making them assign what they should be doing. Like we have a contract that for a while before we caught that, hey, this is really a trend, everybody was a 411 tech support specialist. And while their job can meet 70% of tech support specialists, they're really a system administrator, and they should be meeting those requirements and proficiency levels. So just to bring that out.
I think that contractually, you're working within the limitations of whatever's written there. Yeah, that'll be it. So I had a couple questions online, Joel. One is for folks who meet the foundational requirement, the evaluation of experience, how will they be recognized in TWMS? And will they upload the certificate of foundational by experience in DCPDS or another means?
So we've negotiated in the past few weeks that we would go ahead and upload the document now that there's a certificate that would validate, and that would carry over into the base info area. So, yeah.
And then on top of that, we have worked with DoD CIO in conversation that they are updating the fields in DCPDS based on the 8140 qualifications, right? Certifications, education. So all those fields in the drop down of DCPDS for civilians that enter in their information there, one of the fields in my biz, right? DCPDS, one of those fields, hopefully, as they work with DC Pass, is going to be that experience credential certificate. So that should eventually, hopefully, flow over as well.
The next question, is there a way to get notifications when PAAs are expiring in TWMS in the same way we get notifications when a certification is expiring?
Oh, okay. I never heard that. Yeah, we can feel that. So when it's 60 days, we can talk about that as a side group, yeah.
Great. The next question is, so we will take that for action to add to TWMS. Let's see, Molly asked, good morning, Joel. I asked earlier this week and it was passed off until you were on stage. So my question again, when will NAF be available in TWMS? NAF available in
NAF,
TWMS.
oh,
Yeah.
gotcha. So, I believe that's based on your policy, guys. I mean, we can code them, well, we can bring them into the workforce, but we cannot allocate them to the correct work role code because they have no appropriate funded billets, which are only tracked in TIFMs. There are no NAF billets. So that's the dilemma that we have in fully bringing them in and enveloping the automated processes that we have. Does it make sense?
Yes, so there'll be more to come. That's something that we've identified. We actually have found a way to do that, but we just need the policy ironed out.
Correct.
In regards to that. Another question from Kay. One of their workforce members has a BA in religious studies and a master's in business. Neither of them meet the foundational requirement. However, DCPDS doesn't recognize the different types, and TWMS is showing they meet the requirement. This particular person also has a cert, but the foundational qualification doesn't show because of his degree. Is there a way we can fix this? So this individual has a degree that is not qualifying, and they have a cert that is qualifying, but for some reason in TWMS it's only showing the degree as their qualifying thing, but it is not actually a qualifying.
Is this a civilian that we're talking about? Because you know some of the MyBiz entries are not in the same nomenclature, so they are free text on that end from my current understanding. And that doesn't translate easily to what we have cataloged in TWMS. So if you can give me the example, I can investigate.
Okay.
Yep.
So Kay, if you could go ahead and let us know who that is offline, and then we will go ahead and Joel can investigate to see what the problem is with that one. Thank you. And then a question came, how can someone enter their own certification into TWMS. And I would say if it's a military, it's through your NSIPs, and if it is a civilian, it's through MyBiz.
Correct.
Yeah, so it's automated, it flows automatically into TWMS.
Hey, Joel. When it expires, they would have to, their database to get rid of it, but it does clutter up, and it looks like garbage. You get a whole bunch of things that expire.
So someone mentioned here that when it is a self-reporting in NSIPs or in DCPDS through MyBiz, once it expires, it stays in there and it cannot be removed by the sub-workforce PM. So it does clutter it up if they're not keeping it current.
I'll take that for action. I'll do it as the other modules have it in the training. We can archive it and so that it cleans up and only current pertinent data is displayed. How's that?
That would be great, thank you.
I had a follow-on question to the other question, Anna. That was the one that there was a degree and a certification. First of all, is there a precedent that happens there, Joel, that shows where the points come from?
Yeah, there is. It's actually NEC designator, degree, certification, and training. It's in that order, and whatever's caught first, the algorithm stops. But it seems like it stops prematurely to where it never meets the certification point where it could be substantiated.
Okay, or possibly, I was just wondering if there's it's possible that maybe there's something in the I think the admin module has been cleaned up that degree would have not have caught, right, and it should go to the cert, but is it possible that it went down to the cert and was like, but it doesn't see it in the admin module? These are just things I'm just like, my head was like, is that why possibly this could have happened?
So truth be told, there were entries in the cyber workforce module that were credentialed at one point, but when we right-sized to the matrix, it corrected that and reallocated and re-credentialed everyone.
Okay, thank you.
And I wanted to mention, correct me if I'm wrong, Joel, part of that is the fact that we have 3 qualification matrices that are, cybersecurity is definitely updated. The ingestion of the credentials from Navy Cool has almost been vetted fully. I think there's a couple, I think education and
The
certifications are done.
Yep.
The training for like NECs for the Navy and Marine Corps is still almost done.
Yes.
But the other elements, the other work codes and the other elements that we don't have credentials for yet are still based off of the old logic of the SecNav policy of the Appendix 4. So if you're in one of those work role codes where it's picking up old education, because the education DCPDS 6-digit degrees is still flowing from the Appendix 4 of SecNav, that's probably part of the issue, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not all updated yet because we don't have qualification data for some of those yet.
Yes, sir.
Commander Witzer from CNAF again. So I have some pre-com units coming up, and wonder if there's some sort of CWF PM starter kit for them, speed run through the TWMS process. I know it can be getting access. It was kind of challenging for myself, right? And I'm trying to help a lot of my constituents who don't have access, and I'm forwarding an email out. But is there somewhere on the on Navy Cool website or somewhere else, like these are the steps you need to take 1 through 18 to get a CWF access for you and then potentially for your lower echelons to monitor them? Because I got type wings that are monitoring squadrons at the 05 level, and then debts of debts monitoring down. Is there some way to make it obvious, make it clear, published like in an instruction and guidance?
Yep,
Which
so
ones to do?
yesterday, during my brief, I think I mentioned the PM roles and responsibilities.
Right.
That is coming, and that is gonna be in
Okay.
that guidance. Or
Yeah, because I've been forwarding out Marsha's email.
Yes.
And I'd
Yes.
like something a little more solid than that if possible.
Yep, so it's coming. I don't have a percentage of completion or date.
Okay.
Delayed because we recognize there's pieces of military that need to be put in there. So we're taking another look to make sure that we're accounting for military and what you guys need to do that's special towards the access and requirements you have. So I would say it's about 80% complete, and then we'll put it out. Mind you, it's a guide.
Right.
So it can definitely be updated as additional requirements come in or things that you think are more helpful. We'll make it fluid.
Yeah, I definitely think getting something out as soon as possible would be very helpful because,
Yep.
especially with this press to do CWF, again, I would say 10% of my constituents knew how to spell CWF correctly.
Right.
So trying to help them out and get their programs off the ground, be really helpful to have some sort of, hey, here's a guide instead of me having to give a presentation every time.
Right, understand.
Related question, is there any vision to move off of TWMS for military folks for the work rule codes, right? Because sailors on ships, you check in as a IT3, you're doing great as tech support, but your supervisor notices you're an excellent sysadmin and makes you a sysadmin. And then it takes a long time to do an AMD BCR, right? And I mentioned this to one of my ships. The senior chief gave me a wince because he doesn't want to do a BCR because of all the work that's involved with doing that. And I'm being told by some of my manpower folks it could be 6 months to a year before all that is finished, before it gets processed for the ships, right? That's a very lengthy process. Is there any way in the future we have to speed run this, make it more flexible, especially for military folks who are, you show up to command, you're assigned this bin, but actually you're doing XXX instead, right?
So I think the, what was it, the word of the day, or not word, but the reference yesterday was TBD on a lot of stuff, right? So I'm not going to throw them under the bus or anything, but ASM and RA, no, we might have to work with ASM and RA and the manpower folks to see if there's a different solution. Because today, that is where that is where the information only for the billets is coming for the military. I mean, unlike civilians where you also have DCPS data. So NSIPS doesn't have work roll code data and things of that nature, so we have TFMs. So more to come. Maybe we can work with our M&RA partners and see if we can come up with a
Yeah, if we're trying to be flexible and identify talent, right? To me, part of that is not, these bureaucratic systems have been around forever. Maybe you need to be more flexible than they currently allow for. So.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, so it's, because I got two people in the back of the room who I promised something to, and I'm pretty sure they're going to talk about the TOCA process, right? I'm just going to go ahead and bring it up, ladies. Okay. So I think the same process for us in the Marine Corps is the TOCA process, and so what happens is you do get a lot of that where a billet, you not need to change billets like this, right? But you got to go through what we call a TOCA process in the Marine Corps. That takes time, and then we through our TWMS, it takes time to update all of that, put the new published thing out and everything. So I think this is a great time to be able to see if we can work with, on both sides, on a process that allows us to make those type of updates and changes on a more frequent or more expeditious manner. Thanks.
Thanks.
So, kind of going away from TWMS a little bit, but been back to it. With the whole push for waypoints now for the training side and everything else for the civilians, one thing I've noticed, not only in my active duty time, but now my civilian time in the Navy and everything, is that we have all these systems, but none of them talk to each other. Is Waypoints going to start talking into TWMS, and is TWMS also going to be able to coordinate back and help us out a little bit in Waypoints to be able to understand, hey, here's some of the trainings that you need to do based off your work role code and all that kind of stuff, and then that information feed back into TWMS once it's completed.
So right now there is a feed to TWMS from waypoint completions, but that's via DCPDS.
Okay.
Some of the issues have been their course ID numbers are
Different.
greater than what we have expected in their SIN nomenclature, so we had to accommodate that. And yes, for civilians right now, we're all directed to take trading in waypoints, and we are in lockstep with the Mars team in that regard for those operational activities and TWMS regarding training.
Now, we're also being told that we're supposed to be doing our IDPs now in waypoints for civilians, vice and TWMS. So is that reporting through DCPDS back to TWMS as well? Or are we going to show that we're not, compliant with having our IDPs completed?
I don't know, I haven't heard
I
anything
can-
of that initiative
can
that
address.
IDPs were being,
Yeah.
okay.
Those are required to be in waypoints. So the change that we made in TWMS, it does not report, is we changed it to a checkbox in TWMS.
Okay.
And you can run a report in waypoints. We created it in NAVSEA template, and we had it issued in that command to every cyber workforce PM so they could run a report and they could actually see those are only cyber workforce and then see what those goals were and if they truly were cyber related or not, because and The waypoints IDP, it just shows in the report whether it's done or not, and it doesn't show whether it's cyber or not. So they did create one, and we're working with the functional community to see if that can be replicated throughout all of the commands and be available. But it would, at this point, still require us to run the report and then checking that box in TWMS to update it to show that they are complete, since that is our readiness
Okay,
database.
all right, thank you.
And when it comes to like training, like work role training, so when we start talking about our community page, as we're going to start building, so there will be things you'll start finding in waypoints that will lead you through that thing. Our idea would be, if you were to take something waypoints, wherever it needs to go to ensure that you can trigger the qualification or anything like that, we will work to ensure those all work together as we go, as we evolve this out. So you'll know, yep, I need to take these courses for this work role, and then once you've completed it, it'll go to where it needs to go.
Okay.
Yes.
Have we, or has TWMS fixed the option that when you click the IDP is completed, it doesn't reset, and so once that button's clicked, it's always clicked unless you go in and unclick it. So has that been corrected?
So the current functionality for IDPs and TWMS is that it could be based on an end date or perpetual with updates. So with that checkbox, it's perpetual. So let me take back and see if the date, expiration date is still present in there, and I'll get back to you. Yeah.
There was another question, and there seemed to be a number of them about the residential and PQS, whether they'll be entered in the future. And that is something that we will be working on, so I'll answer that. But right now, our priority is to make sure that all the foundational qualifications are in there. And then as we get the residential requirements, the policy and the requirements specified to everybody, at that point, TWMS will reflect it. So at this point, there is some flexibility, but it is limited because we haven't released all the requirements are yet for DON in that regard. I'm sorry. We're at time. Okay, one more question. Okay, that one is about, a lot of these don't really deal with you, so I'll just go ahead and answer them offline.
All right.
Anything else internal?
Anything else? Thank you, folks.
Appreciate it. Oh, appreciate it, Joel.
No
Is it
worries.
on? Is this mic on? I'll press the button. Thank you. Appreciate it. Press the button, silly. Okay, so thank you, Joel. I refer to Joel. I have known him for the shortest amount of time out of the team as the magic man, because basically you ask him, hey, can this thing go in there? And all of a sudden it's in there. It's pretty cool. The letter of designation was the one that was like really, really good, because we had piloted another letter of designation, and it was like, no, that's cool. And then Joel's team came in and we're like, whoa, okay, yeah, that's exactly what we wanted to do. So appreciate that, Joel, and appreciate you being here today. Hey, everybody, we're going to go on a 10-minute break just so we can get everything set back up here for the next thing. So please, we'll start at 10:25 instead of 10:20.